Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity. I am Jan Jeremias, and I am here with my canine companion. He's going to be really quiet today, I think. Tonka, he's totally sacked out. So a little bit about me. I'm a trained scientist who began exploring holistic and alternative healing about 18 years ago. I began my journey with the use of essential oils and began exploring other modalities like Reiki, gentle massage, for pets and people. I'm the co-author of the top-selling essential oil book for pets called Spoil Your Pet, a practical guide to using essential oils in dogs and cats. And today I'm so excited to welcome Amanda Plante. And this is, yes, a very, very different guest than I think almost on any podcast. I don't know how much Amanda's been on podcasts, but I'm super excited because kind of fulfills a need within me. It's let me share a little bit about her and then we'll get started. Eric will do a wonderful job and cut out since I lost my place. Okay, here we go. So Amanda is a woman veteran with an MBA and the founder of Zovargo. She is dedicated to serving and working to help make the world a better place. And a little bit more about her. She is a true superhero in all the senses of the word. She has several uniforms or powers that she or roles that she plays. She's managing the daily operations of Zovargo, and she'll go and tell us a little bit about that. She's working in her other full-time career as a knowledge manager and IT developer for the Navy. And her what little spare time she has, which I'm sure isn't much. She volunteers as a raptor rehabilitator, and that was really interesting to me also. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Zovargo and how you started, and then maybe go into a little bit about what it is.
Sure. Yeah. So Zovargo is an educational zoo. We specialize in outreach education. So we bring our really special animal ambassadors out to visit all kinds of different places, from libraries to scout meetings and school classrooms, even really, really special private events for adults and folks of all ages. And we were founded about 8 years ago now in 2015, and with the idea of making conservation education programming available to all kinds of folks who maybe can't come to the zoo or travel to a zoo. We bring the zoo to you at Zovargo, and that's how it all started. And we have been really growing over the last several years, especially in the community with different groups within the San Diego community. So we've won some awards because of that. So we're an award-winning community partner with Girl Scouts of San Diego, where we're based here in San Diego, California. And gosh, we've won a handful of others from, the San Diego best and favorites list and so on and so forth. So we are really excited about our growth, and our mission stays the same: is to serve the community, collaborate with other community partners that are here, but also just to provide amazing animal experiences and up close encounters, and that are all conservation focused.
So what kind of animals do you have?
We like to say we have something for everybody. We like to say we have a little bit of mammals and reptiles and vertebrates, birds, plenty of birds. So we have over 40 different individual animals at our zoo at this time. We did start with just a handful of animals in our very first year. And over the last several years, through working with amazing other organizations, they have said, hey, we have this non-releasable owl. We have these tortoises that lived at Dallas Zoo actually for most of their life. They needed a place to go. So we've worked with other zoological facilities, animal rescues, animal rehabilitation places. And as long as the animal is okay with being around people and they're comfortable in that environment, as being an animal ambassador, going out and meeting people and interfacing in that way, they become part of our program. So we have all kinds of animals, and they come to us in so many different ways.
Wow. And so what is so I'm sure you have a home base. So do you care for all the animals? And is they basically like, I don't you don't have to share where you live, but is it basically on your property?
Correct. Yeah, myself and my co-founder live on the property, and we have eyes on the animals all the time. And we do have an amazing team of interns, and our staff also that do help with the larger husbandry of the animals. So the weekly checks of weight and major cleaning of habitats that do have to happen regularly. And so we see the animals every single day, me and my co-founder, and they do live on our property.
That's amazing. To be surrounded by that must be, I mean, to me, I mean, I'm an animal lover, so I think it would be just so much fun. Partly because they have so much to teach us. I don't think people understand how much animals, a lot of times people don't understand how much they can offer us about how to live. And I think being surrounded them is such a good example for us.
Yeah, I would agree. Just, every single animal species that we have a way of teaching us and connecting us back to nature and back to how we can live better to support them. And that's the heart of our programming and the messaging that conservation is all about, is just having people not only just learn about and understand other animals, but be connected to them in a way where they want to help them. And that connects them to nature and the bigger purpose of making the world a better place. So yeah, it's a really special experience living here, being the founder, and also just being able to do the work. So I go out alongside our entire team, and I'm there educating and providing those animals experiences just the same. So, the same as day one. And so it's a really exciting thing to see people connected with the animals, learn about the animals they love, and then they want to help protect them and care for them. And like, what can I do to help this animal that maybe I see in the wild in my neighborhood, or even an animal that's far away? How they understand and learn and furnish those. We help to furnish those connections.
That's beautiful. It's so amazing that you can basically, I say home care, but habitat care for so many different species. And probably ones that don't necessarily get along with each other. And to me, that's the honoring of the whole ecosystem. It's the fact that being able to kind of merge that. When you go out, do you so what kind of do you have specific themed programs, for example?
We do. Yeah, we absolutely do. So sometimes folks would say they maybe want a bird program. They say this is part, for example, an event that we have coming up that we have been partners with for many years is the San Diego Audubon Society. And so they say, hey, we want birds for this special event to highlight native species or even non-native species, to just focus on birds. So we can provide bird themed programming that has a deeper message. We've been asked to do maybe a young person is obsessed with bugs, loves bugs, and they want a bug themed birthday party. So we've done that before as well. So we definitely have all kinds of different program themes that can also align with the science standards and Common Core curriculum of classrooms, of schools. So that's the beauty in the diversity of not only our animals, but the depth of programming that we can provide for educational institutions is, being able to align with whatever kind of programming need they have. And, at the heart of it all, of course, there are animals. So, so we always have that as a common thread of all of it. Like the love, appreciate, and caring about animals is just something that's embedded in all of the programming, even if it's about bugs, even if it's about ecosystems. So, yeah, we have all types of different programming that we've done over the years.
I mean, to me, there would be nothing like just being in a classroom and just, instead of reading about something, actually experiencing it firsthand, just to be able to have that visual, possibly touch an animal, that, touch a feather or whatever, because I don't know, that, like you said, that's an experience, and that's an experience. Somebody's going to remember that. They might not remember facts, but they're going to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. We can, I think a lot of people may think that, educational animal programming is just that, spouting out a lot of facts, and then you're on your way. But it's not always about every single element of an animal that makes it a great survivor, or something that, like you said, that people are going to walk away with. They're going to walk away with like, oh my gosh, that animal was amazing. Or they're going to remember the story about the animal. A lot of our animals, as I mentioned, come from different places, different walks of life. For example, we have a Bengal cat, and he was left abandoned in a home in Los Angeles from a breeder that absolutely just left his home and left the animals locked in crates. And so we work with rescue organizations that they went in and rescued the animals and then placed them in new homes and new places. And our Bengal cat was the last cat from that home that was, those animals were rescued from. And the person that was supposed to adopt him never came. And so, it was a family member that runs this other organization out of Los Angeles. And they said, hey, I know this cat may have some trouble, may have some problems. I don't know. He's neutered and has his shots, but would you like a Bengal cat maybe for your programming? And that was in the first year of Zovargo. And we said, of course, that sounds wonderful. We'll give him a home no matter what. If he wants to be an animal ambassador, amazing. If he doesn't find it suiting, then so be it. We'll still take care of him. And because they didn't know a lot about his behavior and how he would do in those types of settings. But after some time of working with him and getting him comfortable walking on a leash and visiting smaller groups, like we said, wow, this could really work. And so that story of Leo, our Bengal cat, is pretty special example of, when other people hear that story, they go, oh my gosh, and they learn to appreciate that animal. And then they say, oh, well, that's really cool. What are Bengal cats anyway? How are they connected to wildlife? What can I do to help, wildlife then? So that's his amazing tie to wildlife and how folks can make a difference. So that's just one animal, one story, one example.
Do you have, I'm just curious, do you have like very interesting breeds that have kind of partnered together? Or species, like things you would not think of would hang out together or would actually get along, but have created or have some sort of bond?
Yeah, interesting question. Yeah, so I would say that most of our animals stick to their own species. We don't try to commingle them as much. So, the only ones that tend to, with our, diverse animal group that we have here, the only ones are the cats that actually like commingle with each other a bit. They're pretty social animals. And so we do have a Joffrey's cat, which is a small wild cat, and the Bengal cat. And we just recently have gotten a Savannah cat. And so those are completely different types of cats from different wild blood. And they all get along, for the most part, enjoy each other's company, pal around. And so I will say our Joffrey's cat does live 100% outdoors, but she does enjoy to see the other hybrid cats that we have and other domestic cats too that are her friends. So yeah, I would say the cats are the only ones that might be interesting to hear, because the Joffrey's cat is very, very small wild cat. She's 7 pounds. They look like a kitten their whole life. And 7 pounds isn't really big. Most domestic cats are around 10 or so, or heavier.
Right.
Yeah, because they pal around all day and like to just kind of nap. And so yeah, the Joffrey's cat's a totally different type of cat, but still it's this very small cat. So
Wow. So what is your favorite like experience that you've had going out with an organization? Like, what's your favorite one that you share?
yeah, so one of my favorite stories goes, I guess I have a two maybe that stand out in my mind about one time when we were really early with Zovargo, starting out again our first year. I I was under the impression like, you're just starting out. No one's going to know who Zovargo even is. They're going to be, and we do hear it a lot. We're like, oh, it's the zoo people. Oh, the animals are here kind of thing. But this one, we were going for a young boy's birthday party, and we pulled up and, said hello to the parents. And the boy came running through the hallway, running out, Zovargo is here. And I just still remember his excitement and that he knew our name, Zovargo. And it was just so touching. And then another time that stands out in my mind, we were frequent visitors at another school. And we had pulled up to the school and were getting ready to unpack and move the animals and everything inside to get set up. And the playground was up on this hill above where the parking lot was at. And from the playground, this little girl, holding onto the bars of the playground fence. And she was very excited to know that one of our animals, she didn't really know, but she assumed that one of our animals was there. So she held onto the bars and she said, Biscuit is here. And so Biscuit was our very first guinea pig. And so it was just like, what? Who knows that Biscuit is here? Why are kids shouting from the playground about our guinea pig? It was quite heartwarming and definitely a memorable other story that stands out.
Wow, that's so great. Well, it's nice to know that you're making such an impression, and I feel like I've always, like I think I mentioned, maybe we weren't on yet, I've always been an animal lover, so I don't think that, but I think a lot of kids, especially depending on where they live, aren't really exposed to that many wild animals or animals in general.
Yeah.
And so to offer them such a positive experience at such an early age is just really wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. As I mentioned, not a lot of people have the luxury of having a zoo nearby, maybe, or they live in an urban environment and maybe they can never, go on a hike out in nature. So the connection to nature with animals is something that, fosters that early appreciation for wildlife and wild things. And And I think there's really something to be said about that, especially, folks that aren't, like I mentioned, aren't privileged to go to a zoo, have never been to a zoo before, or maybe even taken a walk in nature. And so them seeing something different and wild and unique is definitely, it can be a life-changing experience, I would think, for some young folks.
I think probably for some people, but especially when you're young, because
Yeah.
when you're older, you kind of formed your opinions of
Sure.
things and things like that, whether those beings.
Right.
So on that note, I mean, we're talking about the impact on children, but I think just the impact on animals on general for all of us. I mean, I know that would probably not be here if it was not for my dog. He's such an emotional support for me. And so I think animals just offer that such a easily because they're so non-judgmental.
I would agree. Animals have always been a huge part of my life. I would definitely say ever since I was young, I always considered animals, some of my closest friends. So I, was always thankfully always supported in being able to have a pet and work with animals in some kind of way. Thankfully, from an early age, my mom actually fostered a lot of that and knew deep down that, there's something within you that is your drive and passion and love for animals. So I'm really thankful that she allowed me to have animals and to be close and connected with them. And it, definitely has carried through to adulthood. Something that never left me is the care and consideration for animals. And that's how I got into rehabilitating wild raptors as a volunteer. And so there's a lot to be said about animals and the connections that they allow us to experience and bring, and the joy that they bring to our lives.
Yeah, I noticed that you talk a lot about that, the unique ability to provide emotional support. And you have other programs, for example, like, Make-A-Wish Foundation for children and other things that foster that emotional support for others.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's one of the things that is important to us is giving back to the community. And so our programs through Make-A-Wish and other organizations that, need those kind of supportive programming is important. There also have been some really special moments along the way where a young girl it was a free library program to the community. She had never interacted, openly with others before at all, communicative or physically or otherwise. And so she came up and participated in our programming of acting out as a bird. We were, showcasing different types of birds and how they're all very special. So this little girl was actually a peacock. So she was our peacock and acted the part and was really into it. And at the end, after we were, getting ready to leave, her mom, which we didn't know who her mom was, but this woman came up in tears and she said, my daughter has never, she's special needs, and she has never talked or interacted or even touched an animal like this in any form or fashion. But you all brought out something special in her today by allowing her to feel safe and heard. And it's just, it's a really special thing.
You're making me cry.
I know.
I know. It's just like so beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you do, I mean, I'm curious just because I happen to do a lot of work with the elderly. Do you go into senior homes and facilities like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have visited all kinds of assisted living facilities and providing it's so fun to see them light up and see their faces of like, I had this animal when I was a kid as a pet, and bringing back those beautiful memories for those folks as well. So absolutely, yeah, we have done programming for those facilities as well. Even the
Well,
military community is another community within San Diego that's very big. It's a very big military town. And so as a woman veteran myself, I felt connected and compelled to give back in that way. So I fostered relationships with the various entities that support our military service members in San Diego. And we now provide regular programming to the military year over year through those various outlets that support our military here. And a lot of the times it's either free or highly discounted, and it's obviously free for the military members, but it really benefits our organization it at its core and its heart to be able to give back to the community in all sorts of ways, from the military to special needs organizations, also to retirement homes as well. And so it's all about the love of the animals and finding those amazing connections that people want to have.
such amazing work. And to think that I always love to see when people are passionate about what they do and actually love what they do. Because there's so many people out there who don't love what they do for a career, or basically it's a passion in a life. It's not really a career. The way you're speaking, I'm like, it's not a career. It's like it's a combination of a mission and all these other things, and you can hear it in your voice, and it's wonderful. So you mentioned earlier that you have your business partner, your co-founder, and then you have interns and that. So you have constant, where they, school, whatever, high school kids or college kids who actually intern with you, or maybe older people.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks that are looking to kind of branch into the animal world, get that experience, add it to their resume, are definitely part of our internship programming. And so those folks are, they can add that to their resume. I've handled so many different exotic animals. I've worked with these different animals. So it's definitely a big benefit to intern with us. And then there's other folks that maybe they don't have as much time on their hands to develop and grow and be dedicated to an actual internship. So they may be interested in just volunteering, just simply giving back and helping in any way that they can. So we also do have volunteers as part of our programming.
Well, I'm curious because as you were talking about handling, I was looking at your degrees and I'm like, where do you learn how to handle exotic animals? It's just like you take a course, exotic animal handling.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think that's, I mean, I know folks can get into different degree programs and have that type of experience with the hands-on type teaching zoos. And it's kind of what we allude to as part of the internship. So interns that are dedicated to it, there's a whole process with being an animal, trained and qualified animal handler within our organization. And I know within a lot of other zoological organizations too. And so we absolutely, they have an online class. They'll study and do this online class and course to make sure that they're up to par. And then there's a lot of hands-on training that they'll go through as well. And then eventually, when they feel ready and assured with themselves, they will, do it in front of a real crowd and allow other people to interact with that animal, or at least see the animal in a safe way. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think a lot of people are looking for if they're wanting to be a veterinarian, or like I mentioned, break into the zoological industry in some kind of way. Getting this internship is a great way forward.
Now interested in, as you mentioned, veterinarians, because that was going to be my next question, was about like their healthcare or their wellness care. Uh, especially because I'm from the Northeast, and besides for my cousin is an ophthalmologist and used to volunteer at the Chicago Zoo, but otherwise, how many veterinarians actually treat or work with exotics? I would assume not that many. I mean, I have one. I mean, when I was living in New Jersey, and like the whole, basically, I think it was pretty much almost in the whole state, there was one vet who was basically an aviary vet, like specialty was birds and really only did bird veterinary medicine. So I'm assuming that, finding care probably is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And as part of the internship or even a volunteer would get experience in like, what does it take to care for these different species? From reptiles, as I mentioned, all different types of reptiles have very specific requirements for their habitat, whether it be humidity levels or temperature levels, or how do they like to get their warmth from a temperature like a hot light above or on the belly or whatever. So as one example, and birds are so diverse in their care and specialty training, for how do you even handle some of these birds safely. And so, yeah, it's quite a bit, but definitely, we work with several veterinarians that are specialized in the care and medicine and certain diagnostic things that need to happen for, say as an animal gets older, you need to work with specialized vets that know about birds, that know about exotics. So we work with those, but as part of our programming, folks that are looking to get into that or learn more about general handling, general care, we teach nail trims, how to identify if a beak is overgrown or nails are overgrown, simple things like that anyone might do for their regular animals at home. But beyond that, we work with professionals and we rely on them. But the basic care, how to weigh an animal properly, like a lot of people might not know that. So, those are things that folks can learn and help with us too.
That's great. But the other thing I'm thinking about, for a long time, I worked, I was doing research, and one of the guys who worked in our building had hundreds of bats. He worked with bats, which I actually love bats, and people always look at me and they're always like, and it was so interesting to me how interactive they were. I mean, they would beg if you came down with food. I mean, it was amazing to me. And so I think people, they're a lot more social and interactive with humans than we think they're going to be.
Yeah.
And I think they get really used to certain humans, like they know voices and things like that. And I'm sure you've found that in some of the animals that you work with, that people think, oh, well, not that but they don't really care about us, that they're very much, but I think we almost become one of them in some ways.
Yeah, I do know. So some people that have worked on our team, they tend to be, find animals that are their favorites for whatever reason. And so, you often working in this line of work, you don't want to say an animal is ever your favorite, but a lot of times I have a few people that come to mind that have worked with us that say, I'm really only here because I met this animal at an event and I wanted to learn more about this specific animal and its individuality. And so a lot of people do tend to resonate towards animals in a more personal way. And whether they, are just fascinated with the species, or maybe how the individual is, or they just, simply want to learn more about a specific type of animal, I can definitely see that draw towards specific animals or even specific species because they're of interest to folks.
I'm just curious because it must be so fun when you enter whatever. I don't know how you separate your facilities or your species, but like when you enter their area or their habitat and they hear your voice and they like come like to whatever, they come to see you. So I'm thinking to myself,
Yeah. I will say I personally may take for granted how easy it is for me to interact with some of the animals. You know, for example, we have a quail, and we've had that quail for at least 5 years, or if not more. And he was found, he's a wild species of quail known as a Gambel's quail. And he was found walking the streets here in one of the San Diego cities. And he was pecking at people's shoes. And just like this bird that's the same kind of quail you might think of with the little top knot feather, which is multiple feathers, actually, a big plume. And he went into a wildlife facility for rehabilitation because they thought there's something wrong with this bird. Is he sick? Why is this bird pecking people's shoes in the streets, in the city streets? It should be out away from the city. And he was definitely, something happened. He was raised by people. Or something happened. We're not sure. He's not allowed, you know, he didn't really tell a story. He's not a card carrying, like, you know, I came from this area, put me back here. But he can sometimes be challenging, but I find I can just put my hand in, because it's been so many years, and he just walks on my hand calmly, and I can put him on a scale to weigh him calmly. But with others, he, you know, jumps on their head and like gives them quite the challenge. But yeah. I guess there's also we have an owl who's we've had her over a year now, and she will see me if I walk outside from her habitat outside, and will start hooting when she sees me or hears my voice even. Because I think sometimes I'm like, how can you even see me? I was all the way on the other side. But yeah, walking outside near her, I you know, I get calls from her hooting, and, you know, and I definitely, there's a familiarity between her and I as well.
I think it's amazing. When I did, I was really good friends with a girl who took care of the bats, and she was from Bogota, Colombia. And she used to go in the bat room, we used to call it, because that's where they were. And she would do this little sort of like clicking sound with her tongue, and they would all line up. And it was amazing. I mean, I never thought that they were social or would care. It was just like they would all line up and they would all wait for her. It was amazing. It's like bats. And I was like, see, there's, you know, animals are really smart, and they know people, and they they knew her voice. It was just so. I know you also have a virtual program for people who are not close by, don't live in San Diego, and would like to see some of these animals. And do you do programming for people if they want a virtual program, let's say like a school or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We even love Zoom meetings and Teams meetings for different companies out there. So, you know, we have had the luxury of being able to add some kind of wildlife to various company meetings, special like family days they might have for their remote workers. Everybody's on Teams or Zoom or whatever virtual platform they are using, and then they have the animals come on, and it's just a really lovely experience to be able to share that. But we have done many schools. Thankfully, we have a really great relationship with a lot of schools in San Diego. And when they couldn't meet in person over the last several years, they had us virtually meet with them. So they scheduled the same kind of programming, but just online. And so we, you know, quickly shifted during the pandemic to offer virtual programming. We kind of always wanted to do it, but the pandemic gave us a chance to do it. And so we converted an outdoor space that we had to a beautiful outdoor studio. The weather here in San Diego is usually amazing and comfortable enough to be outdoors, and it was more friendly for the times. And so completely covered, and we just converted the whole thing, added mini cameras, and mini as in two cameras, two different camera angles, producer station right there as part of the studio, the whole nine. And yeah, Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We don't do as many today, but when we get the chance to do them pretty regularly still, it's quite a lot of fun to connect people to animals. And they also get to travel sometimes inside of the animal's habitat. So they get to not only just see the animal on the screen, a lot of times we take them on a little adventure and they get to see where the animal lives and see animals that they wouldn't regularly get to see in their habitats in that way.
And that's probably cool because if you go in person, obviously to a school, they don't
Yeah,
get to see the habitat. You talk
that's
about it.
right.
And so it is a different experience.
It is. Yeah.
And so if people want to help you do or do anything for you, so they're not local and they're just listening, how could they help you?
Yeah. So our organization, Zovargo Foundation Inc., is on Patreon, and folks can join Patreon and for as small as $5 a month, get the inside scoop on Zovargo and all that we have going on, kind of even behind the scenes. Of course, they can follow us on social media and see lots of activity there. But we also have a way folks can donate if they go to our website, which is zovargo.org. And then by clicking the book now button, there's a donate option there. We also have a option for donating animal supplies to us via Amazon. And so we have an Amazon wish list with all kinds of animal supplies that are there, that, you know, if someone was inspired by hearing Leo's story, and as silly as it sounds, you know, the Bengal cat Leo, they want to, you know, I want to help Leo. Like, that was a really touching story about him. I believe there's cat litter on the website too, and like toys for him. And so any of our animals, you can pick out specific things to support them directly. Yeah, those are several of the ways folks can get involved and to help.
That's awesome. Well, I thought of one last question because I'm just curious. Have you ever had any births through the
Oh,
years?
oh, okay. So we don't breed our animals at all. So oftentimes when we have two of an individual animal, they either are of the same sex, or if they, you know, that's just point blank, they're of the same sex if they're living together. But they have to just get along is kind of where my mind was going. But we did and have had a birth. So scorpions actually have the ability to hold on to their fertilized eggs. Female scorpions can, and wait, their body will wait for an extended amount of time until they feel like the habitat or the place that they're in at the time or wherever, that it has enough food and that they're safe enough to have the babies at that time. So we had we still have her. An Asian forest scorpion, a very large, black, all black, beautiful scorpion. We had her about a year, no kidding. And one day we go in there and suddenly there's a whole bunch of baby scorpions on her back. And if you've ever seen what that looks like, just off a picture, they're little translucent, you know, little tiny scorpions that don't have a hardened exoskeleton. So that's why they appear like clear and almost jelly-like. And it was the only birth we've had, and it was quite by surprise that we had to see, how did this even happen? And then we learned that they actually wait before they have babies to make sure they feel okay. And so of course we felt much better about that at the time. Like, wow, we gave this scorpion a great home where she will now have her babies. So
Understandable why you'd want to control that, but it sounds like it would be so much fun. But I'm sure as a zoo person, it would not be. Like, I just wondered also if like,
yeah.
like you happen to have gotten a pregnant animal and not that you wouldn't have known, but kind of said, okay, well, we want it to feel like it has a safe place. But now you did with the scorpion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you never know. I mean, we've just been lucky, knock on wood, I guess that it hasn't happened because that would, kind of throw us for a little loop like, okay, we have not one, but more of these. But yeah, you never know what species we will be able to work with in the future, and that could definitely be something that might happen. So what a fun question.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it was so nice to learn more about you and about Zovargo. And I hope the listeners will go and help support you in some way. And I'll have to get on the YouTube channel and take a look at everything you have again, because I looked the other day. And so this will be so exciting to now go back after hearing some of the stories. And yeah, and please people connect with the beautiful Amanda. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a joy to share everything about Zovargo and some special animal stories along the way. So I really appreciate you, Jan, for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So thank you, everybody, and tune in for next time. And thank you so much for listening.
You've been listening to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts.